Hello and welcome to another episode of Voices of SUP, where we chat to some inspirational people in the stand-up paddling community. Now today's guest has given us some great insights and pro tips, so remember to subscribe to SUPboarder Pro to check out the extended video. Let's get into introducing our Voice of SUP today. He is a Molokai to Oahu champion, a 5-time Australian champion, a 2-time King of the Cut champion. He's ranked second in the world for SUP surfing on the APP World Tour, and in the same year took home the overall race and surf title for the APP. He's a foil maestro, a previous meteorologist, now coach. Let's introduce our Voice of SUP, James Casey.
I guess I describe myself as someone who's just following my passions. Starting back from like when I was working as a meteorologist, I wanted to go to uni and just sort of do something I enjoyed, and sort of ended up I did climate science because I was really interested in that. Since then, sport's really taken a big hold of my life, and started with SUP surfing, and I had competed against you a lot when I first started, and then went into some of the racing stuff as well, and the downwind stuff especially really I still really enjoy. And then now the foiling, it's just, you can kind of, if you look at it like that, it's like just following that path, then this path, and that path, then this path, and just following my passion and trying to do my best to share my passion with everyone else as well.
Yeah, nice. How did you become involved with stand-up paddleboarding in the first place, and when was that?
Yeah, so I started stand-up paddleboarding. I was in Maui, like I said, very lucky. I was on a family trip to Maui, and I saw Laird Hamilton SUP surfing out Ho'okipa. And at the time, I was really into kite surfing, and we were there kite surfing. I learned to kite surf over there, and it was all really good. And I actually sprained my ankle kite surfing. And what it meant was on the days without wind, I couldn't surf, because popping up into a surfing position, like basically re-sprained my ankle. So I was swimming for a couple of days and just body surfing. And then I borrowed I hired a paddleboard from High Tech, which is a shop that's still over there in Maui. And I hired it for the rest of the time I was there. I think it was another 2 weeks. And I just sort of paddled out to the outside reefs and just surfed the stand-up. It was epic. I was like, oh, this is awesome. And it was at a point where stand-up, there wasn't even boards back in Australia yet. So I did that, and then I came home, and you couldn't buy a board over there, back home in Australia. So I was actually chatting to Sam Parker, and who owned a windsurf shop, and he was just getting a board made. So he's like, oh, try paddle a windsurf board. So we grabbed one of my dad's windsurf boards and a rake, an old plastic rake, and cut the prongs off the rake, and we started paddling on this old windsurf board. We got a gnarly rash in our stomach, from the sandpaper deck. So, and then a week later, we got to borrow Sam Parker's, custom massive longboard, but it was a stand-up. And that was kind of the beginning of it all.
Did you take it out in the waves with the rake?
we paddled out. I don't think we caught anything. It was pretty shocking, but we figured out how we could. We were in the ocean. Right. Yeah. But it was. I don't think we caught anything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you took up the paddle way back before SUP was even really in Australia, like you said, and you began competing in SUP events as they kind of came to light. You obviously started out doing it for fun and doing what you love. At what point did you feel like it was turning into a career for you?
Yeah, so it was probably a couple of years after that. My mum and dad both got paddleboards, and I borrowed them every now and then, but I still surfed, and I was actually pretty into the rugby union scene at that time. And I never really took up or thought of stand-up paddleboarding as a career path or an opportunity. Probably 3 or 4 years later from that one time I took the windsurfer and rake out. So it was a pretty long gap between first doing it and linking the dots and finding there wasn't actually an opportunity for, something more than just a hobby. And I did the Marimbula Classic. I think it was 2016 or 2015 maybe. And I met Toby Cracknell and JC Shimahara and Kai Bates down there. And that was basically my introduction to stand-up paddle competition. And we went to Sunset the following year. Must have been, 2014 or 2015. And I did my first event. I would have met you over there, and that was before I'd even done state titles, and I sort of thrown myself in the deep end, and I made it through the trials and got knocked out first round. I think Jackson Close knocked me out, and I was like, well, I made it to the first round, and Tristan, as you know, he's like, well, you qualified for the rest of the tour if you want to do it. I was like, sweet. So I was lucky enough. My stepdad works for Qantas, so I got a few good deals, and I could travel pretty easily. So it was fun.
It's amazing that was kind of like your first event. Like you said, you threw yourself in the deep end, wanted to make it happen. I guess at that point, you're kind of just there just for the experience, and it kind of doesn't matter really about the competition, which is why people can actually surf so well. There's not that much pressure on them. But did you surf before growing up, or did you just start surfing before you got into paddleboarding?
No, I grew up surfing. Both my mum and dad were surfers growing up in the area. My mum was actually an amateur world champion. She won a world title over in Cornwall, so like in England. And my dad used to shape her boards growing up. So yeah, they taught me to surf from a young age. But I never really got into surfing like proper until I was probably 11 or 12. And then I did local board riders from then onwards until I was 20.
Your dad obviously come from shaping boards. Your mum was a amateur world champion. You've been a world champion, overall race and surf champion. How did Coach Casey come about? Was that sort of a natural progression with stand-up paddleboarding with you with coaching, or have you had experience coaching before?
No, so I'd never even. I'd done a little bit of coaching. I'd just done my kite surfing instructor's course because after uni I figured it'd be a good little side job. No one was doing it in Sydney here, so I did my kite surf instructor's course. And I'd never really planned on doing stand-up paddle coaching. It was something I did. I competed at it, and it was just as I was starting to travel a bit more. One of the local guys contacted me and said, "Look, I want to get into stand-up paddling and I want to do the racing. Would you coach me?" And I was at first I was like, "Oh, we can do a few lessons, but not sure you want me to coach you." And he's like, "No, I want you to coach me. And when you're away, let's just be in touch and let's keep in contact." And since then it's grown from there. So that's probably about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now. And it's grown into something much bigger than I probably ever imagined. And it's been good. So it started off just one-on-one lessons, and now it's sort of online coaching. So writing programs, analyzing videos, and now creating sort of online learning modules. So how to have good technique, how to paddle out through the surf, how to turn at a can, how to downwind, all the above. So it's been really fun working on that during COVID. But also, prior to that, learning, how to create a platform online and coach someone.
Are you, through all of this kind of exposure in the stand-up paddling world, from downwinding Molokai to Oahu, obviously the king of the kite race, you're known in that downwinding realm, and then the surfing as well. You cover a vast array of disciplines. Is there a message that you're actively sharing with your followers, or that you're trying to get across to everyone?
I think it's whatever the craft, whatever the conditions, there's always something to do. If the surf's completely flat, go for a paddle on your stand-up race board. If it's windy and the surf's blown out, go for a downwinder. If the surf's pumping, go surf. It's just, I'm sure you're much the same. There's always something, and especially now with foiling, there's always something that's the conditions are perfect for. So it's for me, it's just getting out and enjoying the ocean and making the most of what's on offer out there and just having fun, because life's too short to not have fun.
It certainly is. I think that's what's great about the sport, is it just has those disciplines that you can just carry across into all of them. Just carry your paddle and, just change your board, really.
Yeah, exactly.
It's great. Yeah. So talking about foiling, you seem pretty excited on all of that. You landed the first air on the foil the other day that you got on film. I know you've probably landed a few before then. That's super impressive. But you've improved in such a short space of time. How do you manage riding different equipment and also improving your technique?
Yeah, it's a good question. I know when I first was learning to foil, I literally didn't touch another board for 6 months, and it really meant my foiling accelerate. Like, I learned to foil quicker, but everything else sort of went to the wayside a little. I remember I jumped back on a stand-up surfboard and caught a wave, and I was like, where's all the speed? You know, it's too much. There's all this drag. So since then, I've tried to literally do, you know, one foil session, one surf session, one paddle session, and really try to mix it up. There's no doubt, like sometimes it's always windy, so you're better off, you know, doing a downwinder. Sometimes the surf's always good, so you're just going to go surf. And sometimes you just get obsessed with foiling and you want to land your first air, so you just do that for a little while.
You've been doing a lot of prone foiling. Have you been doing much stand-up paddle foiling?
Yeah, so generally, when we tow in, we obviously are on the prone foil. I've been doing a little bit of that lately. It's kind of like Disneyland, tow foiling. So many waves, and we're lucky that we've got a local setup that there aren't many other people out. So it's honestly like not even fair, the amount of fun we're having. But the stand-up foiling is awesome too, and I still do a lot of that as well, especially when I'm downwind foiling. So I'll take my stand-up out and, you know, go down the coast, which is awesome. And I'm not willing to risk it on a prone foil, paddling in onto a wave and pumping out to sea and then coming down and having to paddle all the way in. So on the stand-up foil, it just gives me that little bit more security, I guess. And then, yeah, also I'm SUP surf foiling as well. A little bit less recently for whatever reason. I think being winter, there's a few more waves. So I prefer to SUP surf foil when there's small waves, and then prone foil when the waves are a bit bigger, just because I can duck dive and sort of I'm a little bit less of a hazard in the bigger surf.
What's been one of the biggest motivations for you in recent years that's kind of pushed you to achieve everything that you've done?
Yeah, my goal, you know, even now is Molokai to Oahu. That's the one race I've always really wanted to win, and I was so stoked to be able to do that last year. And I think, I'm not sure where that came from. I think just when I first started getting into paddling, Molokai to Oahu was the pinnacle for me. The downwind racing as well, that's kind of why I really got into the racing side of things. So for me, that was where it all, I guess, began. And the reason I got into more of the racing, because when I first started, I was just into the SUP surfing. I kind of found when you travel for events, for surfing events, it's so, as you know, it's so much luck. Like, you know, you and I in the same heat on the same day, it would kind of just depend on the waves we caught. It comes down to selection, and yeah, there's a bit of tactics there, but push can't, like, it's a bit of luck, which I love and I hate about SUP surfing. And traveling for SUP surfing, it just kills me. Like, I'm like, well, I could go all the way to the Barbados APP event, and I could get really lucky and get through a bunch of heats because I get really good waves. Or on the flip side, I could get really unlucky and not even get any waves in my heat, and that'd be the end of it, which doesn't happen for the racing. Everyone's on a level playing field. You pick your own line, and the harder you train, the better your result's going to be. So there's just a little bit of a better give and take, I found. I still love SUP surfing, and if I was on any given day, if I was given the choice of perfect SUP conditions, like downwind conditions, or perfect surfing conditions, I'd probably take surfing, because that's the passion, that's what I grew up with. But I just found there's more days than not that the downwind, you know, as I was touched on earlier, different day, different conditions, different boards, and, you know, it's always pumping, basically.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's all about luck for surfing. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I know, like, same as you, like, we travel around the world and we like losing the first heat because just didn't catch that one wave.
Yeah, because you caught the wave before the set. And
exactly. Exactly. It's such luck.
Like, the original question was what motivates me, and I guess that really threw me, I guess, for the SUP surfing. And I want to be able to work towards something and have it not depend on luck, and to be able to achieve something. So Molokai to Oahu was always my goal. And then now, I guess, that I've won Molokai to Oahu, you know, that's still the goal. I'd love to do to repeat, but this year it's virtual, so that, you know, obviously I'm not expecting to repeat with the winter conditions we have here compared to the conditions they have in Hawaii. But I think it's just continuing to challenge myself. So I'm planning a few other races, the Clarence 100, and then also the Hawkesbury Classic, which are pretty different races to what I've normally done. And I'm not really expecting to excel in them, but I guess it's just throwing myself in the deep end and seeing how much work I've got to do and if it's something I want to be doing. But then also, lots of other things, foiling downwind foil adventures, and just, I guess, pushing the limits of what is achievable in these ocean sports.
Before we get to the end of it, James, we've got a quick sprint round that we like to do. It's a quick fire question round. So just some short answers, all I need from you. Are you ready to go?
Been dreading it, but ready to go.
Oh, I bet you have. I know. So what's one board to use for the rest of your life? Would it be race SUP, surf SUP, foil board, downwind, touring board, just a normal surfboard?
Probably foil board. Very versatile.
Yeah. Nice. What's your favourite race that you've been to?
Molokai to Oahu. It's the pinnacle for me. They do a good job of making a big event of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Warm or cold water to paddle in?
You'd think it'd be an easy answer, but when it's warm, the crowds are tripled. So I'm actually going to go cold.
Nice answer. I like that. Yeah, very cool. What's been your favourite place to stand up paddleboard?
Maui's a very special place to me. The fact that you can downwind, you can foil, you can surf, you can SUP surf, you can wing foil, you can kite surf. That's definitely it's a very special place, I'd say, for me.
Yeah. Who is the best person to paddleboard with?
That's a good question. I really enjoy paddling with Marcus Tardrew, mainly because he'll only paddleboard when the conditions are really good. And now we've lost him to the foil. We may never paddleboard again, but he'd be good to foil downwind with.
Who inspires you, just in general?
I think I take a little bit of inspiration from everyone. What Boothie's done with the professionalism that he's brought to stand-up paddle racing, and similar to Kai in the ocean sports as well. Casper Steinfath too, with the little movies and stuff he's created. Lincoln and all these guys that are doing these cool little adventures and creating a story around it. I think that's really cool, and it just inspires me to do my own version of it.
Yeah, for sure. What would be your ideal conditions for a day of paddling? Would it be windy or not windy?
Oh, I love the wind. I'm a wind junkie, I think, now.
Nice. I can't stand the wind.
You got to embrace it.
I know. I have to embrace it. I know.
Keep trying with the wing foil. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I will keep at that. It is a lot of fun. I'm going to try and get up on the foil yet, but I'll get there.
You'll get there.
Yeah, I'll get there. James, thanks for being with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the conversation?
No, I'd just like to thank you, Beau. Great job, spreading the word. And since we first chatted a couple of months ago, I've had a look at, SUPboarder Magazine, the work you've been doing. And it's cool to sort of see all the good stuff that's on there. So yeah, happy to, be a little podcast on there, and hopefully we can do a bit more moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be fantastic. Well, thanks, James. Thank you for watching another episode of Voices of SUP. Really hope you enjoyed listening to James Casey. Please feel free to like and comment below, and also remember to check out the pro version for James's pro tips. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.